Today, we're going to introduce the most powerful open source image editing model in history, Rededit, compared to Qwen Image Edit. This model edits more accurately, maintains better subject consistency, and can execute much more complex editing instructions. Is it really that good? Today, we're going to put it to a comprehensive test across 4 dimensions: traditional image editing, photo restoration, virtual try-on, and text editing. We prepared over 10 test cases to pit Rededit head-to-head against Qwen Image Edit to see which one is truly the best choice for creators. There are 2 ways to use Rededit. The first is local deployment. You can clone its GitHub repository and download the corresponding model from Hugging Face to get it running locally. But here's the catch. The full precision Rededit model eats up a massive amount of VRAM. I ran a test, and even with 48 gigabytes of VRAM, the deployment failed. The other method is to run it inside ComfyUI. You can find the corresponding model in the official ComfyUI Hugging Face repository. As you can see, this is a BF16 format model, and it is nearly 40 gigabytes in size. It's basically in the same weight class as Qwen Image Edit, meaning it won't run properly on a consumer-grade RTX 4090 graphics card. To help you out, I found an FP8 version of the model. The file size drops from over 40 gigabytes down to just over 20 gigabytes. If you are tight on VRAM, definitely give this version a try. To give you a clear and intuitive look at the test results, I built a comprehensive workflow on running Hub. This workflow includes both Rededit and Qwen Image Edit. We'll be using the exact same prompts, the exact same reference images, and even the exact same seeds to compare how these 2 models perform. Running Hub is an awesome online ComfyUI platform. Whenever new tech or models drop, they update immediately. It also provides a great community platform for ComfyUI creators, where you can find tons of reference workflows and creative inspiration. Let's break down the workflow real quick. The setup you are looking at consists of 2 main parts. The top section uses the Rededit model, and the bottom uses Qwen Image Edit. You'll quickly notice that the setups for both models are basically identical. To speed things up, we even used the same acceleration LoRa. Just a quick heads up, not all Qwen LoRas work with Rededit, but our tests show that the acceleration LoRa works perfectly fine. Keep it simple and direct. Same reference images, same edit prompts, and same seeds. Now let's dive into our comprehensive test across 4 dimensions with 10 test cases. Let's kick things off with some complex image editing. Here is our first reference image, a laptop resting on a bed, and just behind the laptop, there is a white cup. The overall composition is relatively complex. Our prompt asks to add a person using the laptop. Let's look at Rededit's result first. The relative positions of the bed, laptop, and cup remained exactly the same, and it generated a beautiful woman lying on the bed using the laptop. The result fully captured our editing intent, and the character herself looks fantastic. Now let's look at Qwen Image Edit's result. The biggest issue here is that the cup completely disappeared. Also, the character it generated leans more towards a hyper-realistic texture. Based on this first test, Rededit's result is definitely more accurate. Let's crank up the difficulty. In this reference image, we have a pair of hands in a very specific pose. One hand is covering the wrist of the other. Our prompt asks to add a bracelet to the wrist that is currently covered. Let's see how Rededit handles this. This is actually a very difficult edit because the wrist is physically occluded. But living up to expectations, Rededit flawlessly completed the task. Now let's look at Qwen Image Edit. Yeah, we have a major problem here. The composition changed drastically, and the relative position of the 2 hands looks completely different from the reference image. From this example, we can clearly see that Rededit follows prompts much better. Let's push it even further. This reference image features a plate with a waffle topped with ice cream and everything. The ice cream, waffle, and plate is drizzled with chocolate sauce. Our editing task is to change the chocolate sauce into pale yellow mayonnaise. The difficulty here is that the boundaries between the chocolate sauce, waffle, and ice cream are very blurry. Let's look at the generated results. Overall, both models basically completed the editing task. However, you'll notice that Qwen Image Edit lost some details. In the original image, There were small chunks of ice cream that completely vanished after Qwen's edit. Fire Red Edit, on the other hand, preserved all those intricate details perfectly. For our fourth case, we have a compound editing instruction. The reference image shows fried chicken served with some white dipping sauce. We have two main instructions. First, change the color of the sauce to red. Second, expand or outpaint the image. Let's look at the results. For the basic edit of changing the sauce to red, both models nailed it. But Qwen Image Edit failed to expand the image and just kept the exact same field of view. Fire Red Edit successfully zoomed the camera out, letting us see much more of the scene. Looking at these four basic image editing tasks, Fire Red Edit's overall performance is clearly superior to Qwen Image Edit. Next up, let's test old photo restoration. The first category is yellowed vintage photos. The reference image shows a woman posing at the beach. Our goal is to first make the image clearer and then colorize it. Looking at the results, Fire Red Edit's colorization is much more natural and retains far more details. For example, Fire Red perfectly rendered the dappled sunlight shining through the holes of her hat onto her face and clothes. By comparison, Qwen's restoration is just mediocre. I do have to point out, though, that Fire Red Edit sometimes over-hallucinates details. Take a close look at the bag in her hand. After Fire Red's restoration, new textures appeared that simply weren't visible in the original photo. This seems to be the model making subjective guesses. Our second category of restoration focuses on those classic, slightly blurry, vintage Hong Kong or Taiwan style photos. These photos have basic color information, but suffer from low overall image quality, low clarity, and heavy noise. We prompt the model to restore the photo, remove the noise, and make the image sharper. The results are night and day. Fire Red Edit made the image much sharper, removed the noise, and gave the whole picture an incredibly clean, transparent look. Qwen's restoration is noticeably worse. Through these tests, we can safely conclude that when it comes to old photo restoration, Fire Red Edit absolutely crushes Qwen Image Edit. Alright, let's test a topic everyone loves, virtual try-on. Unlike the previous tests, for virtual try-on, we must provide two images, one of the model and one of the clothing. We want to evaluate the overall look after the model wears the clothes, and how natural the fit is. In our first case, we provided a top outfit. We asked the model to wear the outfit, length down to the waist, lower body can be freely matched, but the bag and accessory details must remain unchanged. Crucially, the character's pose must also stay exactly the same. Let's check the try-on effect. Overall, Qwen fit actually looks pretty good. Fire Red Edit, however, added some weird white fabric at the bottom of the shirt that simply wasn't in the reference image. But Qwen has a fatal flaw regarding the pose. Notice that the model's legs are crossed in the original. After changing clothes, neither model managed to maintain this pose. Qwen went a step further and completely mangled the feet, creating a weird physical dislocation. Overall, neither model did a great job on this one. Let's try another one. This time the reference clothing is a dress. We specify in the prompt that the dress should extend past the hips, the material and texture must perfectly match the reference. And again, the pose cannot change. Let's look at the results. Both models basically completed the virtual try-on task. But pay attention to how Qwen handled the edges of the dress. The details are way too messy. Fire Red Edit's result looks much cleaner and sharper, based on the virtual try-on tests. Fire Red Edit takes a slight edge. Finally, let's test their text editing capabilities. For text editing, we aren't just checking if the model can modify the text according to our prompt. We also need to see if the modified text matches the overall style and font of the original text, and how well it blends into the surrounding environment. First, let's look at editing a sign. We need to change smoking area to non-smoking area. For this task, we not only need to change the text, but also the icon above it. Overall, both models handled this modification very well. Next example, we want to add the words second edition to the cover of a Python programming book. Let's see the results. Both models successfully completed the basic text addition. However, when Qwen Image Edit added our requested text, it completely deleted some of the original text already on the cover. Fire Red Edit's performance was much better. It preserved every single detail of the original cover text, while successfully adding the new text we asked for. From these tests, we see that both models have comparable raw text modification abilities. Let's ramp up the difficulty and add some typography to a poster. Our reference image is a woman standing on a mountain peak with her arms raised, conveying a feeling of embracing the wind. Our prompt is quite complex. The main text is the Chinese phrase 跑去拥抱风, run to embrace the wind, and we also added a short English text. Our description of the font is highly detailed. We want the font to be wild, flowing, and convey a sense of wind. The brushstroke shouldn't look like flat text. It needs to look like a glowing, flowing, white, translucent ribbon. Let's look at the final output. Both models nailed the font rendering perfectly. The only slight difference is the color. We asked for bright yellow. Both models essentially delivered, but there is a slight difference in how they handled the yellow saturation. For the text editing test, I'd say both models are equally capable. Through these 10 test cases across 4 dimensions, we've comprehensively showcased how both models perform on various editing tasks. Personally, I think Fire Rededit is the better model. Keep in mind that for our ComfyUI tests, we were using the FP8 version of the model. If you use the full precision model, the results might be even better. If your hardware allows it, I highly recommend you test it out for yourself. Alright, that is all for today. What are you waiting for? Go try it out. Follow me to become a true AI expert.